Um, I also I can say is wow. Um, I would like to open the floor for questions, but realizing that we've hit the official time end for the event, um, I just want to make sure that those that have got another obligation have the opportunity to leave. But Jenny and Brad, I can't say enough about how impressed I am by the collaboration between the U.S. Forest Service and NASA has been able to produce here. So with that, I'm leaving the floor open for anyone that would like to ask questions. So I didn't realize that Victoria was with us. So congratulations, Victoria, on your volunteer of the quarter, and you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I don't have questions because honestly, I don't understand a lot of it enough to ask a question. But all I can say is, wow. I mean, that was incredible. And seeing what the possibilities are and where we're moving was just very impressive to me. So I wanted to say thank you, and for the presenters. I'm a Ramsey County Commissioner, and I try to take as much of the knowledge that I get from uh, Mingio and from meetings like this back to the Association of Minnesota Counties. I'm not sure I will do this one justice, but at least knowing that all of this work is happening behind the scenes, that helps us make better decisions as elected officials. I am so appreciative. And I wanted to say that.
Thank you, Victoria. That was very heartfelt. Thank you. Okay, I know there's questions out there. Brian Huberty's here, so there has to be questions out there.
I'm just curious. This is Matt Goodman in St. Louis County. Do you have any anecdotes or suggestions of ways that local government has used this? I work a little bit with our emergency management team, and I can see, um, I mean, on one hand, in a major wildfire incident, we're just taking our instruction and expertise from like a federal or someone who's acting as the incident commander in some capacity that is a wildfire expert. And while it would be very fun to kind of snoop around in here, I'm not sure like a county emergency manager or myself, a GIS person at a county level, quite. I guess I don't feel confident interpreting the some of the more detailed data in there. Maybe you have good suggestions for that.
Um, yeah, it when a situation like this happens, when I say like this, a fire, you have a rapidly evolving, unfolding event, everybody's scrambling looking for data, right? And that's, we're trying to meet, like operational production needs, if you will, for the fire management agencies at the Fed level, state level, and whatnot. But like you're saying, at the county level, city level, folks need to know what's going on as well. And the data that's in firms, it provides, consistently derived data from a consistent data source, and it's provided timely. And with all these tools and the way to access the data, kind of doing a shotgun approach, if you will, here. Like some people may want to use the viewer, some people want to use the map services, some people want to integrate the KMLs with their applications or something. Trying to cover all those bases. So, like, if you need to set up a a web map application, hey, the services are there for you to use. I'm trying to say there. So, but if you need to know, anecdotally speaking, as you asked, I've seen communities use this. Oh yeah, you bet. They want to, they'll be tapping the detections and getting updates on the maps and seeing what's going on, watching where that fire's going. Is it steering and heading towards their town, or are they able to kind of keep it going away from it? And as Jenny can attest, we get a lot of questions, from users in the public saying, "Hey, I'm watching this. How come I can't detect or see this fire when I know there's fires there, or what's going on?" There's a lot of people that are keeping eyes on this stuff and asking really good questions. And but the short answer to your question is, yeah, you've seen towns and local municipalities use these data.
Brad, and maybe kind of a follow-up to that. Is there, if you will, a user guide? Um, I, I personally was surprised at the expansiveness of what's available. Some of the earlier systems were pretty straightforward that even a less than with it kind of person like myself could dial in and figure out what was going on. But the capabilities here are just, they're mind-boggling. And I'm wondering, I noticed that in one of the displays, there's a thing that looked like a graduation hat. And maybe I missed it in the first part of the discussion, but is there the support stuff as far as how to think about things and use it and whatever, is that available?
Yes. And now I'm sharing my screen here again. Um, throughout the applications, there's several hooks for this, but we have, FAQs that are, you can go visit the FAQs
Uh,
here, and there's lots of FAQ.
Tutorials.
And there's also, as you noted there, I'm going to bounce back. There's also tutorials and our
Okay.
blogs. So between the FAQs, and I'm going to open up these in separate tabs so you can see them all at the same time here. So we have frequently asked questions, specific questions about BEERS, active fire detection data, and MODIS, active fire detection data, because there's nuances and differences between those different
Yeah.
sources of data, as well as the geostationary data and Landsat data. We talked about ultra real time and near real time data. What's the difference between all those different flavors of data as far as their latency goes? And so there's information in response to all those FAQs. And the tutorials, yeah, we have several tutorials, some Esri story maps, some YouTube videos, PDF documentation like on how to consume or integrate WMSs and WFSs
Perfect.
into the Esri world, how to use the KMLs, and some coding guidance if you want interacting with the API and other resources. And then lastly, the blogs. We have a bunch of blogs we try to post, just short little messages and notes on particular things that are of interest to people, or maybe things that typically hang people up or whatever can cause some confusion. We try to post blogs to walk people through various processes or help them out there. I don't know, Jenny, is there anything you want to add to that? Resources?
Yeah, thanks, Fred. I'll add a couple of additional comments that Steve, this is a really good point. It's something that we constantly are balancing because we have such a range of users, and that's really why we developed this expanded user interface, because we have the basic mode as the default. That's kind of the main entry point. And I think given kind of the audience today, we went with the advanced mode because it's a geospatial committee. But it is something that we are balancing. I will also say we did do a webinar in October that was global in perspective, and so that audience really covered the whole gamut. And I'm happy to share the link for that, because we certainly started at a level that is, maybe consumable to some people. And I think what was my other point was that I'm the newest to the team and I'm still learning things. So it's not a complicated system, but it's a rich system, and we have tried to address these different kind of user levels. And we shoved a whole host of information at you in one go in an hour and a half today.
That was definitely drinking from a fire hose, that's for sure. Okay, I'll be quiet and other people have a chance to ask some questions.
This is Bob Basquez here. I got a question for you about have you been approached about using this in other for other needs or uses besides just fire detection? I mean, it seems like you could use it for maybe looking at stuff like groundwater, not groundwater, but water saturation, that kind of thing for farming, those kinds of things. Are other people using this and trying to kind of use this for other different kinds of tasks not related to fires, I guess.
Should I go first, Brad?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Well, thanks for the question, Bob. A couple of thoughts on that. Obviously, FIRMS is very much geared towards wildfire. We are developing kind of a prototype flood viewer, really as a way to collect. There are multiple flood products out there. It can be confusing to know kind of how to use them, etc. And so the idea behind that is to host them in one location so that they can be explored and kind of a fitness for use used in terms of which product might work. The other NASA tool that I wanted to mention, and I'll send along the link for this, is NASA Worldview, and this is an online kind of visualization tool that may be more along the lines of what you're thinking, Bob. That it hosts data, all of the Lance data and imagery, but it has. Let me just if I just share my screen, I can show you it. It'll probably be faster. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so this is Worldview, and it collects a massive amount of data on to really support different themes. There are these tour stories to introduce the user to the data. There are the tour stories on flooding, on atmospheric rivers, on dust storms, severe storms, etc. And it's set up in a not dissimilar way to FIRMS. The interface, you can navigate around that as you would. In FIRMS, you can also add data. In here, you can search by hazard, disaster, by science discipline, by featured, etc. And so this may be worth exploring, Bob, to see if this supports some of those needs.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm already in there.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Brian, I think you had your hand up first. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks, Jenny and Brad. That was very informative. And the question I have is coming from a person who actually used to work for what was called RSAC for the Forest Service, but that was decades ago. But I'm also a firefighter, former forest firefighter. And this is a beautiful tool from a strategic standpoint. But what is still lacking is where is the fire actually front visibility, which is a whole nother resolution question, because it needs to be delivered in real time, but also it's lacking, and it doesn't exist, is the forest inventory, the forest fuels, the species size and density. We have bits and pieces of that, but we still do not have that nationwide as a deliverable. And I just was curious if you had any thoughts of how to address that.
I'm going to let you take that, Brad.
Yeah, Brian, first off, when were you at RSAC? Because I worked at RSAC. See, I work at GTAC, and GTAC merged with our sister center, RSAC merged with its sister center, become GTAC. So I worked at RSAC as well. I started
89 to 91, a long time
okay,
ago.
Yeah. I started like in 99, 2000. So that's
Yep.
great to hear. Awesome. So anyway, you're asking about fuels. And comprehensive, consistently derived fuels data. Work has been done on that over the last 10 years or so with a product that's called Landfire. Are you familiar with that?
Oh God, yes, I know. I date back to the Aeros Data Center when Chernobyl blew. So I'm watching AVHRR being used by Wayne Miller.
Yeah.
Again, these are small incremental steps, but if you put yourself in the firefighter's shoes, it's good from a strategic standpoint about what's happening in the general area. But when you have to send people out in the field or out in the forest, literally, it gets to be more of a challenge. And unfortunately, we've had major fires in the past that people have gotten killed over. Yeah. And they just got sent into fuel farms where they should not have been. And I was just curious if you guys have had any more discussion on that. And we can take this offline, or we can chat about it another time. I don't want to get too deep in this.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to you about that more offline, or if you want to have a presentation on it, we can do that. But these days, I will say this real quick. These data like that Jenny and I presented on today, these are intended for strategic uses, right? We're not telling firefighters what hill to run up with, 1 kilometer or 375-meter fire detection data. We used higher resolution airborne imagery and derived products to support those kind of decisions that are collected on a daily basis for incidents who request that support under the National Infrared Operations Program.
Yep,
so those tactical, NIROPS, those
Yep.
tactical scale products are derived from those observations, and and they use those at that scale to make those kinds of decisions. Getting back to your fuels question, there's that land fire, wall-to-wall, 30-meter fuels and land cover characteristics, a whole bunch of different layers they put out, using modeled data based on field plot data and satellite imagery and whatnot. That's the best nationwide wall-to-wall solution that's out there. And you may have heard of an application called WFDS, a Wildland Fire Decision Support System.
No, actually, no, I haven't.
It's a decision support system, as the name implies, that uses fire spread probability models that have been developed by the Fire Sciences Lab up in Missoula.
Missoula, yep.
Yeah, and basically, they can those fuels data from land fire are integral in that fire modeling process. Plus, you've got to have a starting point where the fire is at the time. That might be a current perimeter provided by the incident. Sometimes they use the satellite fire detections as a starting point for a lot of new starts, and there's no other intel available. And they'll do those fire spread probabilities, saying, okay, if we don't put any resources on this, how big is this fire going to spread over 7 days or 14 days? And what's the probability on that expansion? And they can run those simulation models when they're trying to make decisions on where they put their resources. So they say, okay, this fire is going to spread out to here, and we know where our resources of risk are, where there's threatened endangered species, there's cabins or other structures or anything like that. And then on this fire over here, you got the same kind of runs. They know what they can do, where they need to put more of their resources or less of their resources, what they can get by with to help make those decisions on where they place those resources when they got to make those kinds of decisions. Anyway, I'd be happy to talk to you more about that if you're interested.
Okay.
And yeah, that's good to know. You used to work at RSAC. That's awesome.
Daniel, please go ahead. We have a question from Daniel Dix.
Yeah, I put a comment in the chat in case we didn't have time for Q&A, but great job. We have at Municipal Pollution Control with the meteorologists for air quality, we look at the worldview, have quite a bit for MODIS imagery and GOES and things like that. But the firms part, we're after this today, I'm going to send it on to the other meteorologists to start looking into this. I was just curious for the future. I know NASA has launched the Tempo satellite. We worked a lot with, or one of the early testers of that system for aerosols and air pollution, and also for the upcoming GOES-J and GeoX satellites for NOAA. There's probably plans to incorporate that at some time in the future when those birds go up.
Yes. In fact, Jenny and I have been talking about Tempo and derived products when the trick is once those, and Jenny checked me on this, when NASA gets those missions up and going, they do all the checks and they're providing operational data, then they can start looking at opportunities where they can operationalize the near real-time production of those products, which can slide into, like firms and other applications. Tempo would be very helpful. Those derived products would be very helpful for, tracking aerosols and smoke and whatnot.
Cool, thank you. By the way, the Greenwood fire, we worked on that quite a bit, so it was nice to see that in a different way. So I was clicking on as fast as I could all the things you were going through and saved it, so we'll look at it later, but thank you.
And also on firms, there is a, like, for lack of a better term, a help desk or way you can respond. You can provide questions. So if you have questions about anything, or you're running into some kind of issue or something like that, just submit a question, and you'll get a response and some assistance.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. Any more questions out there? Going once, going twice, gone. Okay. Jenny and Brad, this has been beyond enlightening. And I'm going to grab the screen back just to point out one last thing if I'm clever enough to figure out how to get there. I want to do that. And that is, come on, sometime this year. We're going to blow through this stuff. And I just wanted to, did I go too far? Yes, I did. Here we go. I wanted to point out that the link to firms, if you should get confused, sits on the MinSave web page. You can get there either through the EPC website, use resources, and then use the MinSave link to get there at the bottom of the page. Situational awareness tools, as we're getting aware of stuff, we're putting it down there, or you can go there directly using minsave.org to land on this page. I will coordinate with Jenny and Brad for the link to their previous presentation, and this presentation will be clipped out and be available on our YouTube channel. And I think with that, I would say maybe it's time for a cool one and sit in the jacuzzi. We cannot thank you enough, Jenny and Brad. Just a wonderful presentation, and I know it was greatly appreciated by the folks that were in attendance.
Could I add one real quick thing in closing, Steve?
Sure, absolutely.
I apologize. I had that white screen pop up there, and it was spinning with the blue circle there. As a lot of you can probably appreciate, I had Art Pro running in the background, and I lost connection with my license manager. So that's what that window was. And I was gonna show you how those services can be displayed in Art Pro. But what I wanted to highlight there, though, is if you have any questions, we have received kind of a spurt of questions from some users recently in connecting to the map services and firms using the latest version of Art Pro. And Jenny, myself, and others have been kind of troubleshooting that. And we think we've found out what that issue is, and we're going to update the tutorials and whatnot. But if you have any questions or run into any issues, again, just send us an email through the firm's website, and we'll happy to work that out with you. And again, we'll get those tutorials and guidance materials updated, assuming you're all Esri users. And also, by the way, all those map services, OGC compliant, they're served with Map Server, which is, of course, developed there at University of Minnesota. So it's awesome.
Yeah, you actually have programmers or code committers for Map Server on the call, and not to mention a large number of open source users. So
awesome. That's great to hear.
There you go. All right.
Well, thanks very much from me too. It's been a great opportunity, and we always like to share firms.
Yeah, we'll get the word out for you as best we can.
Wonderful.
Thank you again. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. You'll get the tickler follow-up email as you always do from me. And we'll see you in June. Take care.